Abandoned small town square, cracked clock tower with broken hand, dim Christmas lights flickering, empty streets, soft snow falling, unsettling silence, cinematic horror perspective, cinematic horror style, dark and atmospheric, cold winter tones, subtle fog and snow, realistic lighting, detailed shadows, high cinematic contrast, moody color palette, abandoned small town setting, slightly desaturated colors, eerie, psychological horror vibe, realistic human characters with subtle expressions of fear and tension, houses and interiors with gothic architectural details, flickering lights, suspenseful composition, sense of dread and isolation, cinematic perspective, 8K ultra-detailed, photorealistic but safe for work, consistent character design and town elements, slight snow covering surfaces, cold breath visible, no gore, focus on suspense, horror atmosphere, cinematic depth of field, consistent color grading. All prompts share the same visual style. Christmas Eve should have felt warm. That was the lie everyone believed. The town wore its lights like a mask, strings of gold bulbs trembling in the cold, plastic wreaths nailed to doors that hadn't been painted in years. Snow fell lightly, soft enough to look forgiving, but it didn't stay clean for long. It never did here. By nightfall it would be gray, trampled, and soaked through with old footprints no one remembered making. I arrived just before dusk. The road into town narrowed without warning, the kind of road that made you slow down even if you didn't want to. Pines pressed close on both sides, tall and thin, their branches sagging under snow like bent shoulders. My headlights cut tunnels through the dark, but the forest swallowed the light quickly. It felt like driving into a mouth. I told myself it was just nerves. I hadn't been back in 10 years. Not since the winter everything stopped making sense. Not since Christmas Eve became something people here spoke about in lowered voices, or not at all. The engine hummed too loudly in the silence. No radio. I'd turned it off miles ago. Music felt wrong somehow, like laughing in a church. When the first house appeared, it startled me. Then another. Then a whole street, suddenly there, as if the town had been holding its breath until I crossed some invisible line. Welcome back. I parked near the old square, the tires crunching over frozen slush. The clock tower still stood at the center, its face cracked, one hand permanently stuck just before midnight. Someone had hung a wreath around it. The green looked too dark, almost black. My breath fogged the air as I stepped out. The cold wasn't sharp, it was heavy. It pressed against my chest, made every inhale feel borrowed. Windows glowed around the square. Curtains drawn. Shapes moving behind glass. Families, I assumed. Laughter, maybe. But no sound carried outside. Not a single voice. Not even music. That should have been my first warning. I pulled my coat tighter and walked. Snow creaked under my boots, loud enough to feel rude. With every step, the sense of being watched grew stronger. Not from the windows, but from the spaces between them. The gaps. The shadows where light didn't reach. Nothing had changed. And that terrified me more than if everything had. The old grocery store still leaned to the left. The church bell still bore a long crack down its side. Even the bench near the square, the one where Mark used to sit and smoke, was still there. Empty now. Snow piled thick on the seat, undisturbed. No footprints. I told myself people were inside because it was Christmas Eve. Because it was cold. Because towns like this went quiet early. Still, my skin prickled. I reached the house just as the sky finished darkening. It stood at the edge of town, half hidden by trees, like it had tried and failed to disappear. My childhood home. Or what was left of it. One porch light burned. Dim. Flickering. I hesitated at the bottom of the steps, staring up at the door. Red paint, chipped around the edges. The same door I had slammed the night I left. The same door my mother never opened again. The wind moved through the trees, low and whispering. For a moment, just a moment, it almost sounded like voices. I held my breath, listening harder. Nothing. I climbed the steps. The porch boards groaned under my weight, a long, tired sound. I unlocked the door with the spare key still hidden beneath the loose plank. Some habits didn't die. The lock turned too easily. Inside, the air was stale and cold, thick with the smell of dust and old wood. I stepped in and closed the door behind me, shutting out the wind. The silence inside was worse. My flashlight beam cut across the living room. Furniture draped in white sheets. Shadows pooling in corners. The Christmas tree still stood by the window, artificial, bent slightly to one side, its lights dark, its ornaments dull with dust. No one had touched it. I felt a slow tightening in my chest. "Hello." My voice sounded smaller than I expected. It didn't echo. I moved deeper into the house, each step careful, as if the floor might remember me and react. The hallway felt narrower than before. The walls seemed closer. Photos still hung crooked along the left side. Family pictures, school portraits, Christmas mornings frozen in time. I stopped at one. 3 people stood in front of the tree. Me, my mother, and my father. My father's face had been scratched out. Not torn, not removed. Scratched, deep enough that the glass had splintered, leaving white scars across where his eyes should have been. My throat went dry. I didn't remember that. A sound came from upstairs. It wasn't loud, just a soft shift, like something adjusting its weight. I froze. The beam of my flashlight trembled as I aimed it toward the staircase. The steps rose into darkness. The upper landing swallowed completely by shadow. I waited for another sound. Seconds stretched. My heart beat too hard, too fast. I told myself it was the house settling. Old buildings made noises. They always had. Then came the whisper. So faint I almost missed it. My name. Not spoken. Breathed. I swallowed, forcing the word out. "Who's there?" Silence answered. But as I stood there, staring up into the dark, I felt it. The unmistakable certainty that something in the house had just become aware of me. And it wasn't surprised. It had been waiting. The whisper stayed with me long after the sound itself faded. I didn't go upstairs. Not at first. I told myself it was exhaustion, memory, the mind filling silence with ghosts it already knew how to imagine. Christmas Eve had a way of pulling old things to the surface. Regret. Guilt. The past. Dressed up and waiting. I stood in the hallway until my legs began to ache. Then I laughed. Quietly, weakly, and lowered the flashlight. "Get a grip," I muttered. My voice felt wrong in the house, like it didn't belong anymore. I set my bag down in the living room and lit the fireplace. The flame struggled at first, then caught, throwing a warm orange glow across the walls. Shadows shifted, stretching and shrinking as if the room were breathing. I focused on practical things, uncovering the couch, wiping dust from the table, moving like someone who had done this 100 times before. The house didn't make another sound. That should have comforted me. It didn't. I slept on the couch that night. Or tried to. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt it again. That awareness. Like something just out of sight, patient and close. I lay there listening to the crackle of dying embers, the faint groan of wood contracting in the cold. Sometime after midnight, the clock tower bell rang. Once. I sat up, heart hammering. The bell hadn't worked in years. Everyone knew that. The mechanism was broken, rusted through. I remembered Mark laughing about it once, saying it was fitting. The town didn't need a reminder when time stopped. I waited for a second chime. It never came. Morning arrived without light. Gray pressed against the windows, flat and lifeless. Snow had fallen overnight, thick enough to erase everything beneath it. When I opened the front door, the cold hit me like a wall. The street was empty. No tracks. No tire marks. No sign anyone had been out at all. I walked into town, needing proof that other people still existed. The grocery store lights were on, but the door was locked. I knocked. No answer. Through the glass, I saw shelves half-stocked, a register drawer hanging open like it had been abandoned mid-transaction. Across the square, the diner looked the same. Chairs stacked. Coffee pots still on the burner, burnt black inside. I turned slowly, scanning the buildings. That's when I noticed the marks in the snow. Not footprints. Drag marks. They started near the clock tower and disappeared toward the church, a long, uneven trail like something heavy had been pulled across the square. Snow had begun to fill them in, softening the edges, trying to erase the story they told. I followed them. The church doors were open. Inside, the air smelled of wax and rot. Candles lined the aisle, melted into thick, uneven shapes, as if they'd burned for days without anyone tending them. At the altar, something dark stained the white cloth. I didn't go closer. A voice spoke behind me. "You shouldn't be here." I spun around. Mrs. Calder stood near the door, her coat too thin for the cold, her gray hair pulled back tight. She looked smaller than I remembered, sharper, her eyes fixed on me with something close to fear. "They said you'd come back," she whispered. "Who did?" Her gaze flicked toward the altar, then away. "Not them," she said. "The others." My mouth felt numb. "Where is everyone?" She shook her head slowly. "Inside. Or gone. That doesn't make sense." "None of it does," she said and stepped closer. Her voice dropped. "Did it speak to you?" The question landed heavy between us. "Yes," I said. Her breath hitched. "Then it remembers." Before I could ask what she meant, the church bell rang again, this time from inside the building. Mrs. Calder flinched like she'd been struck. "Go," she hissed. "Before night. Before it finishes." She pushed past me and disappeared into the snow, her footprints filling in almost immediately. I didn't follow her. I went back to the house. The rest of the day unraveled slowly. Wrongly. I found doors unlocked that I was sure I had closed. Objects moved just enough to make me doubt myself. The chair angled slightly toward the hallway, the photo frame turned face down on the mantel. The scratched-out picture of my father was gone. In its place hung a new photograph. Christmas Eve. The last one. I stood frozen, staring at it. The memory crawled back in fragments. Voices raised, my mother crying, my father standing too close to the tree. The lights blinking. The sound of something breaking. I had run upstairs that night. I remembered that now. I remembered locking my door, covering my ears. Downstairs, something had screamed. The photograph trembled in its frame. "Stop," I whispered. A knock came from the front door. I approached it slowly, heart pounding. Through the peephole, I saw a man I didn't recognize. Tall, pale, his eyes unfocused. He knocked again, harder. "Open up," he said. His voice sounded distant. "Wrong." "I can't," I said. His mouth stretched into a smile that showed too many teeth. "It's cold. So stay outside." He leaned closer to the door. "It's warmer in there." "It always is." I backed away. Behind me, the floor creaked. The whisper returned, clearer now, closer than before. "You left us." I turned. The hallway stretched longer than it should have, the walls bending inward, the photos watching me as I moved. At the end, the staircase waited, the darkness above it thick and pulsing. "I didn't know," I said. "I was a kid." The house answered with a sound like laughter. Flashbacks bled into the present without warning. I saw my mother standing at the base of the stairs, eyes empty. I heard my father's voice, low and furious, promising things he didn't understand. The town had known. That was the worst part. The whispers, the warnings I hadn't understood back then. "Some houses don't forget," Mrs. Calder had once said. The knocking at the door stopped. Silence fell, deep and heavy. I climbed the stairs. Each step felt like crossing into something that had already decided my fate. The air grew colder with every rise, my breath fogging thick and fast. Halfway up, I noticed the walls were no longer solid, just outlines, flickering like old film. At the top, my bedroom door stood open. Inside, the tree lights glowed. Fresh, bright. Under the tree lay a single gift. My name was written on the tag, in my father's handwriting. Behind me, the house shifted, closing in, sealing exits, bending time until past and present collapsed into the same terrible moment. The whisper spoke again, no longer pretending to be gentle. Christmas Eve never ended. and somewhere below something began to climb. The air at the top of the stairs was thick, almost wet, as if the house itself had exhaled. I froze, staring at the bedroom, at the glowing tree, at the gift with my name. The lights pulsed faintly, in rhythm with my heartbeat, and for the first time I realized I wasn't breathing alone. A shadow moved behind the glow. Subtle at first, like a ripple in the corner of my vision, but then it solidified. Tall, impossibly thin. Its head tilted in ways that shouldn't have been possible. The edges of it seemed to flicker, like the candlelight couldn't fully touch it. I wanted to run. My legs refused. A voice, my father's, echoed through the room. Not outside, not a memory, but here. Present. You shouldn't have come back. I gripped the doorframe for balance. I didn't know. It remembers you, the shadow said. All of you. The room shifted. Walls grew taller, ceiling collapsing inward. The tree bent toward me, ornaments cracking with the faint sound of bones breaking. The gift shook. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. I backed toward the window. Snowstorm. No, outside was empty, frozen, silent. Inside the house, the air pressed against me like hands. Whispers filled the room. Dozens, hundreds of voices, overlapping, cruel, warning, accusing. Why did you leave us? It's not over. You can't hide. I ran for the gift. The tag burned under my fingers. Paper tore like skin. Inside, a small box. I opened it. Nothing. Then a laugh. Slow. Wrong. Familiar and alien all at once. It wrapped around my spine, cold and wet. I spun. The shadow was closer. Its head cocked, smiling, exposing rows of teeth I didn't know my father had. You remember now, don't you? It whispered. I fell back. The floor twisted, stairs spilling down into nothing. The walls pulsed with light and darkness, folding inward. Photos on the wall grew alive. My childhood, distorted, screaming silently. No. I yelled. Stop. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But the shadow didn't stop. It reached toward me, impossibly long arms stretching across the room. I fell to the floor. The whispering voices became screams, shouting my failures, my betrayals, my abandonment. The gift box crawled across the floor toward me as if alive, shaking. I tried to escape through the door. It slammed shut before I could reach it. Locked. The house laughed with me trapped inside. From the hallway, I heard footsteps. Many footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Growing louder then stopping. Silence again. The bedroom door trembled as if something on the other side wanted in, and knew it already had. A single voice broke through the chaos. Mrs. Calder's. It feeds on memories, on guilt, on fear. Don't fight it. I turned to her voice, but she was gone. Just the shadow remained. It leaned close. Its face filled the room, distorted, familiar, horrific. My father's eyes glinted in it, eyes that should have been human but weren't. Stay. It breathed. Stay forever. The tree lights flickered violently. The ornaments shattered, glass raining like teeth. The gift box opened itself completely, revealing a mirror. I looked in. My reflection smiled before I could. But my reflection wasn't me. It was smiling because it knew it had already won. I screamed a raw, shattered sound, and the house responded. Doors slammed, windows shattered, walls groaned, the ceiling cracked. Time stretched. I fell into the mirror, into the reflection, into the shadow itself. Everything went black. Then silence. For a heartbeat, I thought I had escaped. But the whisper returned, softer now, curling around my mind. Christmas Eve never ends. And somewhere, the shadow exhaled in satisfaction, feeding on my fear, reshaping the house, and me, into something it would never release. Every corner, every creaking floorboard, every shattered ornament. Proof. I wasn't leaving. Not tonight. Not ever. The room, the house, the snow outside, all became one living, breathing prison. And I realized as I sat in the dark and cold, that horror wasn't something outside. It was me. It had been waiting inside all along. It had just been patient. The house was quiet now. Too quiet. I don't know how long I sat there, pressed against the wall, staring at the cracked ceiling, listening to the faint hum of the broken lights. My hands shook, my chest ached, and every instinct screamed that I should run. But the house didn't allow it. Not anymore. The mirror lay shattered in pieces across the floor. I stared into the fragments. My reflection stared back. Twisted, hollow, a version of me that had already been claimed. My own eyes seemed distant, not entirely mine, watching me like I was a ghost wandering in someone else's memory. Outside, snow had stopped falling. The town was still. I could see the faint glow of the streetlights through the windows, but the streets were empty, empty as the echoes of laughter that used to fill them. I tried the door. Locked. Windows. Locked. Even the old key under the porch plank didn't work. I realized then that the house had changed. The outside world no longer applied. Time no longer applied. It existed for the horror now, and I existed inside it. I remembered Mrs. Calder's warning. It feeds on memories, on guilt, on fear. Don't fight it. I had tried to fight it, and I had failed. Hours, maybe days, passed. Minutes blurred. The house creaked, groaned, whispered. Shadows pooled in corners, stretching toward me, touching me lightly, and I flinched. Every breath was stolen by the anticipation of something more, something inevitable. I heard voices sometimes. Not my own. Whispers from the past, echoes of Christmas Eves long ago. Children laughing, doors slamming, glass breaking, and the one voice I could never forget. The shadow. Stay. It didn't shout anymore. It didn't need to. I understood. Resistance was pointless. It had rewritten reality here, and I was now part of it. I moved slowly through the house, noticing the small details. The tree was back upright, its ornaments bright. Photos of my family reappeared, but always with something wrong. A missing eye, a crooked smile, a hand that shouldn't have been there. The house was alive, breathing, playing, and I was its guest. Prisoner, witness. I wanted to scream. I wanted to leave. But the corridors twisted as I walked, doors opening into rooms I didn't recognize, windows showing places that never existed. I sat by the fireplace, staring at the dying embers. Outside, the snow drifted silently, undisturbed. The clock tower's single hand moved back and forth as if mocking me. Midnight stretched endlessly. And then the whisper came again. You're home. It wasn't a question. It was a statement. I understood. Not a single soul would witness me again. Not neighbors, not friends, not anyone. The house had taken me. The town had taken me. Even time had taken me. Somewhere in the distance, somewhere I could no longer reach, I thought I heard Mrs. Calder's footsteps fading into nothing. I closed my eyes. When I opened them, the Christmas tree lights blinked. The ornaments shimmered. And a single gift rested under the tree, my name written in a handwriting that was not mine, yet somehow familiar. I didn't touch it. I couldn't. I knew then, with every inch of my being, that Christmas Eve was eternal here, that the house waited, patient and hungry, and that I would never leave. Outside, the town remained quiet, empty, beautiful, normal to anyone who looked from far enough away. But I knew the truth. The horror didn't exist somewhere else. It existed in the walls, in the shadows, in the memories that refused to die. And in me. The house whispered one final time as I sank back against the wall. Welcome home. The snow fell lightly outside. Silent. Pure. Deceptive. And inside I sat, forever, haunted and unseen. Christmas Eve had ended for the world. For me it had just begun.